welcome back to another episode of the CGC podcast. Uh, a lot's happened since the last time I talked to you guys. Personal life stuff really just work picked up for me, so I had to step away from podcasting for a minute. But I think we finally have a way to streamline content. I don't want to make any promises to you guys, but I will say this: you will hear from me more often, especially with the holiday season coming up and a very interesting time in the industry of gaming uh, basically being upon us. And it's essentially already started. Uh, Before we get into a discussion about today's topic, I'm pretty sure I'll have something alluding to it in the title. I want to throw some numbers at you guys, and I want you to remember these numbers because they will have context later. And I hope I say context and not context. But these numbers will have some very strong context later, and I want you guys to understand how significant these numbers are. I'm going to explain to you what they mean, and I'm going to try to explain to you why I think they happened. These are not things I absolutely know, well, except for the numbers themselves because I looked them up. But the context of those numbers, why those numbers are the way they are, is going to be based on things that I've seen. Is not so much assumption as it is just, observation. And my observations could be wrong. I'm not in the industry. I don't know for sure. But these are significant numbers all the same. That out of the way. The numbers are 24, 86, 60, and 20. That's again 24, 86, 60, and 20. So, the big topic right now in the Xbox, or I guess you could say Xbot community, is this idea that Phil Spencer lied, and he told people that Indiana Jones and Starfield aren't coming to PlayStation. It's just these 4 games. And, recently at Gamescom, really not even on the Xbox showcase, which I kind of wouldn't expect him to do, but on the Keighley showcase, and we'll get to that guy in a minute, they essentially said, yeah, Indiana Jones is coming to PlayStation, and Jeff Keighley was like am I 3 minutes in? Yeah, Cheshire fucking cat, ear to ear, announcing that because he has feelings towards that brand that, let's just keep it a buck. The guy's a fucking Japanophile anyway, right? Like I guarantee you a lot of his conversations lead with, I'm friends with Hideo Kojima. So the fact that Hideo Kojima is kind of, at least to some extent, a very pro PlayStation guy makes him one by default. And I'm pretty sure he cries in his pillow at night knowing that Kojima's making some kind of game exclusively for Xbox with the hopes that they'll just port it to PlayStation because that's where he's going to play it. The guy's a fucking high level, high tier grifter, and he really shouldn't be a person that's delivering news to people, but for whatever reason he is, and it's kind of sickening. Like how he's the only one who survived fucking game trailers and I think he was on G4 TV. How he's the only one who's made a career post that of some significance is beyond me, and it's kind of fucking disgusting. I'm pretty sure he weaseled his way into that, but that's, and I don't know him personally. I don't want to sit here and attack him too much, but like, dude, if you don't like Xbox shit, just don't put it on your stupid ass shows. They're not good anyway, right? So, but I don't want to come off like an Xbox complaining about something because I'm not one. I am a fan of that brand, but I'm also a fan of PlayStation, Nintendo, and I love me some PC because that 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 ultimately is going to be the end all be all platform for gaming going forward, and you can believe that or not, it's happening right in front of your face. Now, we are kind of in a situation where you see a ton of Xbox content creators once again walking toward that ledge and they're ready to jump off. You know what I'm saying? And then you got guys who ain't really even Xbox content creators like that talking about how disappointed they are. Guys who decide, oh, I'm gonna be an Xbox grifter. Within the last couple of years, they just decide to be one, and they're talking about how disappointed they are and all this other shit. And it's just like, we got to be realistic about what Xbox is, okay? We got to be realistic about what Xbox is. We got to be realistic about what their brand is and the position they're in. Two things Phil Spencer said in the last year or so. Let's go a month back, so about 13 months. Because I think that's when the court case was, right? The court case was last year in July. He was on the stand, I believe, and he was asked a question by Judge Corley, or maybe it was the lawyer for the FTC, and it alluded to something about the council war. And he said specifically, the council war, and I may be misquoting him, but I don't think I am. He said the council war is a social construct. The council war is a social construct. People heard that and it went right over their heads. They didn't understand what he was saying when he said that. Yesterday, because this is Wednesday morning, I woke up and decided to do this podcast at 1 o'clock in the morning. Yesterday, he said in an interview when asked about porting Indiana Jones to PS5, he said something else. He said, this is the business strategy that works for us. Think about that. I gave you guys 4 numbers toward the beginning of this podcast. 24, 86, 60, 20. And let me throw another one out there. 9. Right? What are these numbers? What the hell does that even mean? 24 million units is how many the original Xbox sold. That's with the mega hit Halo and Halo 2. That's with Jade Empire and KOTOR 1 and KOTOR 2. And what was the original Splinter Cell launching exclusively on the Xbox? Like, they had a lot of big mega hit games on the original Xbox. 24 million units sold. This is the same generation, mind you. They outsold, I think, the GameCube by like 1.25 million. And they were both outsold by the PlayStation by a massive 160 million units sold for the PS2. This is with a mega hit game that people lined up outside doors to buy when the sequel to it launched. We're talking about Halo 2. The second generation, the Xbox 360, a year ahead, and that's not the only advantage they had, a year ahead with Halo 3 on the horizon. They sold 86 million units. The PS3 would launch a year later, and I went and bought one of these damn things at launch, and I actually still have a launch PS3, the fat one that has all of the backwards compatibility. This thing launched at, I believe it was $600. Let me say it again. It launched at $600. Outsold the Xbox 360 worldwide. So that means not just in America, because I believe in America 360 outsold it, but worldwide, for the entire world, that includes America, outsold the Xbox 360. I think the last official number was by 0.175 million, so 87.5 million units, or 87.75 million units. The Xbox 360 not only launched a year earlier and was about $200 cheaper for the base 360. I think the base 360 may have been $300. And the best version of the PS3 to buy was $600. And the one with less memory and less backwards compatibility was $400. Maybe it was $5. Maybe it was $5. Do you know how bad that generation was for Sony? Some of you guys may be too young to remember. That generation for Sony was absolute dog shit. The PlayStation 3 launched with like 3 or 4 games that are, for all intents and purposes, insignificant now. I believe, funnily enough, one of those games was like a Ninja Theory game. Heavenly Sword, I believe, was in that launch window. And there were a couple other games that no one fucking remembers. One was like a dragon game that used the 6-axis motion controls. All that shit was whack. None of that shit was good. The PS3 started off so bad that games that were previously announced for as exclusives weren't. They lost Assassin's Creed. Agent by Rockstar never came out. There were a couple of games that Sony themselves announced that never came out on that machine. They had the whole fiasco where the internet went out. The internet services went out for a good portion of their player base for about a month. And the PlayStation leadership in Japan had to come out and apologize. And there was this whole video of them bowing in apology. And that's where the PlayStation Plus 2 free games every month thing started. You get the PlayStation Plus games for free now because back during the PS3, PlayStation services went out for a whole month. And when they finally came back on, as an apology, they said, okay, anybody who subscribes to our service, we'll give them 2 games a month. This outage killed series. Like, it hurt Mortal Kombat 9's launch on the PlayStation 3 because it happened like maybe a week or so, or within the week that Mortal Kombat 9 launched on PlayStation 3. It hurt SOCOM, which already wasn't the best game to a lot of fans of the series, but that SOCOM, I think it was it 4? I think it was SOCOM 4. SOCOM 4 launched like literally within a few days of this outage happening. Then there was a big problem with them disabling the ability to use Linux on the PS3. Not to mention the fact, and these are all the bad things that happened to Sony, right? Not to mention the fact that the Xbox 360 had a defect known commonly as the red ring of death, which essentially made it so that you probably would have to go and replace your Xbox 360, which actually probably bolstered unit sales. 86 million units sold. That's how many of those things they sold. And I would probably say a decent number of those are repurchases because their original 360s died. All of that bad shit that happened with Sony, they lost by 1.75 million units. Xbox One, 60 million units sold. I saw that number. I was actually shocked. Like, damn, they sold 60 million of those damn things? But apparently they did. And of course, 20 is the last number I saw for Xbox. It was the last number that was reported for Xbox Series, but I'm pretty sure I've heard since then they were around 30. I say all that to say this. The significance of those numbers, again, 24, 86, 60, 20. The Xbox console has never won a generation. The Xbox console has never been as significant as people want it to be. And by people, I mean the Xbox grifters, right? That it's never been as significant as people want it to be. And I'm not talking about particular people. Like, I'm not talking about there's people I respect because I know that for them, they understand what's going on with Xbox, and they make jokes about it. Like Gas. I'm not talking about Gas. I'm not talking about King David. I'm not talking about any of those guys because I know what they're doing content wise. I watch enough of their content to understand what they're doing and why they're doing it. Plus, those guys aren't blind fanboys, right? They criticize Xbox just as much as anybody, just not fucking clowns about it like a lot of ponies are. You have to understand that over the course of 4 generations, for numerous reasons, despite the fact that they have shown great games, there are 2 places, right? 2 regions where they can't seem to sell shit. It's Europe and Asia. Now, Europe, I don't understand what the hell their problem is. They just like Sony stuff, right? Maybe it goes back to having them in their living rooms for like speakers and sound systems and TVs, and they say, oh, well, they make a game console now. We might as well stick with them on that too. Whatever. I don't get it. Asia, I believe it has something to do with culture. And I'm not trying to make this a political thing, but I really do believe that culturally they fuck with PlayStation because it's made by other Asians. So it's in the Chinese market, that's in the Japanese market, obviously where Sony is based. Any of those markets, they're going to fuck with PlayStation because they're Asian. They're an Asian company and it's an Asian product, first and foremost. If me, however you want me to phrase that, if I can come to that conclusion and I am just a fucking guy making a podcast on YouTube where any idiot can make an account and have an opinion, and I'm an idiot. If I can come to that conclusion, why aren't the weirdo ass Xbox grifters and fanboys coming to that conclusion? Phil Spencer said what he said about the console war being a social construct. And particularly this business plan works for us, or this strategy works for us. Guys, they bought 2 of the biggest third-party publishers in the world, subsequently turning themselves into the biggest third-party publisher in the world because the only way they were going to be able to get these purchases past regulators, and particularly in Europe. And see, this is where Europe plays a big part of the equation. Europe loves PlayStation so fucking much. The whole reason that they can't advertise Call of Duty being in Game Pass is because if one would assume that Call of Duty is in Game Pass, and they would think, okay, I should be able to stream it. You fucking can't, because and I watched Michael Pachter on David Jaffe's show. He's like, for whatever reason, when the CMA made them divest the streaming rights to Call of Duty, they just went along with it. And Michael Pachter's like, I would have sued him. I want to let him get away with that shit. I would have sued him. And it's just like, you know what? He's right. But they just rolled over and played right along with it. So because they can't offer you the full package of Call of Duty with the streaming services and stuff, they have to just not bother doing it, or they need to find a way to do it, maybe putting an asterisk next to it saying not streamable on xCloud. The CMA actually screwed them on the Call of Duty thing, right? And it's because they were protecting Sony. They were just clever enough to make it not look like that. And the FTC is still trying to screw them. Despite the fact that they've played ball and they've published games on PlayStation and have shown intent to publish more games on PlayStation, obviously with the announcement of Indiana Jones. And that's my phone going off. What you must understand is that Microsoft knows at this point that in order to have any kind of headway in this industry going forward, they have to pivot strategies. I don't believe they're going to get out of the console race, and I'll touch on that in a minute. But the Xbox guys, especially the ones who are acting like they're upset about this, or the ones who are, oh, well, I don't feel special as an Xbox owner. You're not. And that's not to say that Nintendo fans are special either. They're not. PlayStation fans definitely aren't special. You can't be special. It's 160 million, you motherfuckers. You're not special. There's way too many of you to be special. And realistically speaking, at some point, Sony will have to pivot strategies too. Now, I don't think they'll ever put their games on Xbox like that, but they're definitely going to be putting on PC like that. That's inevitable. But for 4 generations, the closest Xbox has ever come to winning is second place. And that 360 generation was really, really fucking weird because they essentially did everything right outside of the Red Ring of Death. They got one of the greatest creators of all time to put 2 games exclusively on their platform. The games didn't sell in Japan. The games barely sold in America, right? They created new franchises during that era. They didn't kill them. Like Sony killed 2 or 3 of their most popular franchises during the PS3 era. They basically killed what was left of Killzone. We can sit here and talk about the Killzone on PlayStation. What did it do for them? They basically killed Killzone during that era. They killed Twisted Metal during that era. They killed SOCOM during that era. Right? A lot of series came out of the PS3 era as corpses. They were either dead or on their way to death. Now they created Uncharted and of course Last of Us at the very tail end of that generation. But Microsoft created Gears of War, expanded on Fable. They had a couple of series that were locked to that generation that I think they probably should expand on. Viva Pinata never got a 3rd game. They never really took advantage of Rare period during that gen, right? They did a few things wrong, but generally speaking, that was like a strong effort. Blue Dragon, Lost Odyssey, getting the Capcom to finally start making games with the platform. Devil May Cry, and the Street Fighters launched day and date with the PlayStation versions. Getting the Grand Theft Auto stuff exclusively, the DLC, the Ballad of Gay Tony, and I forget the other one, but it was about the bikers. Lost and the Damned. There you go. Like they did everything right. They were a cheaper price point. Franchises that usually would skip out on them didn't skip out on them. They had a shit ton of Japanese exclusive RPGs. They had a whole creator market where people could just make games and publish them. They did everything right and they came in second fucking place. Because Sony had just made the PS2, which again, 160 million units sold compared to Xbox's 24, and I think GameCube's 23 or 22.25, something crazy like that. PlayStation just sold 160 million units, bro. And they came into that generation arrogant as hell. And they still, despite constantly tripping over their own feet, they still won. If your best effort still isn't good enough, and you spent all of that money, and Xbox spent a lot of money. Let's not forget, this is the generation where the content in 1 month exclusive on Xbox with the biggest franchise of the time, which was Call of Duty. Like by the time Modern Warfare 2 came out, Call of Duty was a fucking juggernaut, and the content was exclusive on Xbox for a month. They still lost. They still fucking lost. You gotta understand how stupid that is. And Xbox isn't losing the Xbox One generation. What was it? 100 and was PS4 like 140 million units to Xbox One 60 million units. They didn't lose that generation just because they were stupid. Just like they're not losing this current generation just because they fumbled on some things out the gate. They're losing the generation in large part that for whatever fucking reason, Europe and Asia don't fuck with them. In Europe and in Asia, they don't buy fucking Xboxes. Like, forget this idea of and truth be told, Westerners have never been big on. We've never been big on being loyal to stuff that was Western made or European made or American made. They don't fuck with Xbox. Like if the Europeans were loyal to their own shit, Amiga and Commodore would still exist. They bought Nintendo and Famicom. I think it was called Famicom in their region. They bought that more than they bought their own shit. Now think about it. Like, and again, I'm not trying to make it political, but I have to approach from this angle. The Japanese buy their shit. Europeans, Americans, they don't buy their own shit. Maybe they've been groomed not to. But as an American who wants to make video games, or a Westerner who wants to make video games, wouldn't it behoove you to see the Western companies do well in that sector? I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not like Sony of America's not going to hire you if you're good, or Nintendo of America's not going to hire you if you're good, but I don't think the Japanese are thinking that way. I don't think the Japanese are thinking, oh man, we should buy Xboxes so we can get a job in video games. No, they're supporting Nintendo and Sony because they know those companies are based here, and if I want a job in that industry, it behooves me to support those two companies. So it is a political thing. It's the same thing with the car industry, right? There was a point in time, I don't know how they are now, but there was a point in time you told a guy who worked in an American car factory that you drove a fucking Toyota, they fucking look at you funny. Now, I will agree with anybody. I know a lot of people saying this will make better fucking cars, and it's like, you know what? You're absolutely right. But at certain points they did, and you still didn't fuck with them. Hell, I drive a Toyota right now. So before I bought a Toyota, I had two Fords. I had two Fords and a Pontiac, which is out of business, but you get my whole fucking point. It's just like, dude, for whatever reason, we're not conditioned the way other cultures are to support our own first and foremost. There are goofy ass motherfuckers on the internet that laugh at Microsoft and Xbox. A lot of these motherfuckers, a lot of them PlayStation grifters are gonna play Indiana Jones on the Xbox Series because they have an Xbox Series S or X and they have fucking Game Pass. At the very least, they're gonna play it on PC through Game Pass. But these goofy ass motherfuckers make internet videos every fucking week talking about how bad Xbox is because it's a grift, right? Then you got motherfuckers who, if they really thought about it, a lot of the shit you use on a day-to-day basis is Microsoft shit. But you're mad at them because they make fucking video games? You want them to be out of the video game business? Let me be clear. The main reason that I want Microsoft in the gaming business permanently, or at the very least until another Western company that is just as big decides to take their place. So I doubt that'll happen. So let's just stick with Microsoft for now. Is because I don't want a fully Japanese dominated games industry. We invented video games. That shit was made here. Why the fuck should it be dominated by an entirely other culture without any kind of competition from us? We absolutely think about that. As a person who has friends in the industry, why would I want their ability to get jobs to be completely predicated on the idea that a foreign company would be willing to hire them? There's an economics thing. Think about how dangerous that fucking is. And I'm not sitting here saying, "Oh, Asians are bad," and no, that's fucking stupid bullshit. And if you jump to that conclusion, cut my video off now. Fuck you. I don't want you. I don't want to listen. I don't want you listening to me, because it's not about that. But culturally speaking, if you live in a certain country, you want some kind of skin in the game, especially if that game is multi-trillion dollars on the table in it. If I was in Africa, I would want an African gaming company. You don't necessarily have to make a council, but I would love for you to have software development. If I was in Italy, I would want Italian video game developers to exist, especially if I'm getting a degree in it, just because, you never know. It's good to have some skin in the game. And yeah, there are American developers and publishers and everything like that, but we need somebody from here making a council. It just makes sense. Right? You gotta have some skin in the game. And there's a lot of people that's like, well, that's stupid. And it's like, well, I'm sorry, you don't understand it. And I don't need to explain it to you. It's really just a matter of that's how everybody else is doing it. Why wouldn't we do it? Right? That's how everybody else is doing it. Why wouldn't we do it? Why wouldn't we have some skin in the game on the industry that is continuously growing and is as big as it's ever been and doesn't see any show any sign of slowing down, because games are becoming easier and easier to access? Why wouldn't you want skin in the game on that? But for Microsoft to survive, for Microsoft to remain in the games industry, they have to do this. Because depending on people to buy their consoles just isn't it. They only tend to sell in America and North America and South America. They don't do well in Europe. They don't do well in Japan. And they're definitely not going to do well in China. Right? They have quite literally gone to the ends of the earth as far as what they were willing to pay for in order to get some kind of headway in Japan. And I think that the 360 has so many quality Japanese only games, because I've imported a few of them, that it's ridiculous. And them motherfuckers still didn't buy that shit. They got the guy who created Final Fantasy again. I hate to keep harping on this. They got the guy who created Final Fantasy to put 2 games exclusively on that platform. They got Square Enix themselves to create like 1 or 2 games exclusively for that platform. And the Japanese still didn't fuck with it. They still didn't fuck with it. They didn't want it. It's just like, go over to Japan and see how many motherfuckers is driving GMs. Chevrolet's like, they don't do that shit. We're the only country that does that shit. We're the only country that's conditioned to do that shit. And it's fine. But that doesn't mean I want GM to not exist or Ford to not exist. You understand what I'm saying? Like, if there's an industry where money is to be made, your country should have some kind of skin in the game. They just should. Economically, it just makes sense. We're not even just talking about video games. It makes fucking sense. And that's why I believe, that's one of the main reasons I believe the Xbox brand is so fucking important. But you have to also understand, if you are a fan of the Xbox brand, that they're never going to make the headway. They were never going to win a console war. That was never going to be a fucking thing. Right? When I stated many months ago that Xbox buying Activision would make them undeniable, I meant that, and I still mean that. They're undeniable. At this point, they are the biggest third-party publisher in the world. And I don't give a fuck how you feel about them. You're giving them money one way or the other. If this Indiana Jones lands the way I think it will, I don't care how much you hate Xbox. You don't get them motherfuckers some money to play that game. If they can get Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1 and 2 in that Deadpool game, which is actually pretty decent, pretty janky in some instances, but a pretty decent game. If they can get those games republished on gaming markets by working with Disney on a deal, don't tell me you motherfuckers who only on PlayStations or PCs ain't gonna buy that game because you missed buying it the first time Activision brought it back. You'll buy that game. You'll buy those games. You'll definitely buy those games. You'll definitely buy those games, especially if you actually wanted them. You'll buy those fucking games. If, God forbid, they get the opportunity to make a Marvel Ultimate Alliance 4, you'll buy that fucking game. That's what I mean by they're undeniable. I was on the PlayStation marketplace not too long ago, and I saw Sea of Thieves on there, and I saw the rating. It's like at a 4 point. Was it a 4.75? No, it's like it was a 4.34 stars. Y'all motherfuckers love that game on PlayStation. Right there under the publisher mark says Microsoft Corporation. Undeniable. And that's all they were doing when they was buying these publishers. And they're going to buy one more. I don't know if it'll be American or Western in general, or if it'll be Japanese, but they're going to buy another fucking publisher. Because Microsoft is smart enough to know, even though they do a lot of dumb shit, they're smart enough to know that if I'm the motherfucker producing the eggs, you gotta come to my farm to buy them shits. Period. Point blank. I don't care if you walk out with a crate of them. I don't care if you walk out with a few. I don't care. I don't care if you actually go ahead and buy one of my chickens to make the eggs for you. I own the farm. So if you want to make a fucking omelet, you got to come to me. That's what makes them undeniable. And I remember I told you guys about a little game that I honestly believe they bought Activision for. And it wasn't Call of Duty, because Call of Duty, they're putting Call of Duty is a risk. I believe a calculated one to some extent, but it's a risk. They know that putting Call of Duty in Game Pass could potentially hurt sales for it, and particularly on the Xbox. But a lot of people who own PlayStations either know and they're still going to buy the game for $70, or they don't know and they're going to buy the game for $70. A lot of people on PC I know already pre-ordered it, and it's like, you just don't want to get PC Game Pass for $9.99. Fine, whatever. Microsoft doesn't care because they're going to get your money regardless. Again, undeniable. You can hate Microsoft, but you're going to give them fucking money. Right? It's coming to a point now where they're going to start publishing games on this scale that it's almost looking like every month for the rest of the year they're going to have a game coming out or some kind of expansion. And then early next year, it looks like damn near every 2 to 3 months they'll have a game coming out. But I want to touch on that game because I know I've briefly brought it up, but I'm going to pivot back to that real quick. That game that I told you guys they were making, that was the actual game they bought Activision for, is starting to take shape. They've already declared the studio for it. Everybody was pissed off. Oh, you shut down Tango. And I'll talk about that in a second, too. You shut down Tango. You took down Roundhouse like anybody gave a fuck about Roundhouse games, right? And you shut down the Redfall studio, even though y'all motherfuckers clowned Redfall. Again, like the last video, worst fucking audience ever to entertain in history. And it's funny, Nate Shot talked about that. We'll hit that in a minute too. Nate Shot, I believe, is a famous Call of Duty player. They opened up quite a few new studios. They gave Playground Games a third studio. They have a studio consisting of Candy Crush developers of all people who are going to be working on random IPs, AA games that Microsoft now owns, and that's hundreds of fucking IPs, by the way. And I think they're working under Blizzard. And they opened up a little studio called Elsewhere in Poland, I believe. I believe they're stationed in the same place CD Projekt Red is. What do you think that Elseworlds game is? It's under Activision. They're based in Poland. I told you motherfuckers that they had a game that is either, I believed it was a live service sci-fi shooter. Something akin to Destiny. But it may not be. And if you look at the description when they first announced it, and I missed this, I missed reporting on this story. I may have reported on it in passing, but it was they're making these massive media-based worlds where cross media-based, right? Where there could be films, TV shows, comic books, animation, and obviously games based around IPs, and that's what they're going to do. That's what Elseworlds is doing. What the hell do you think that is? That's the game I was telling you guys about, folks. Whatever Elseworlds is making, and you ain't gonna see it this gen. If you see it this gen, I'll be shocked. You ain't gonna see it at next E3. You ain't gonna see it, well, not at next E3 because that E3 don't exist no more. But you want to see it at the Xbox showcase in June. I don't think you'll even see it in the showcase in 2026. I think it'll be, well, you might see it there because I believe it'll be a launch title or post-launch title for the next Xbox console, and it'll be on PlayStation as well because they want the money, right? But whatever that game is, whatever the hell that game is set to be absolutely huge, right? And you're going to see in the coming months how good the talent that they've acquired actually is at making video games. They might actually be on Sony's level now. The CD Projekt Red, not CD Projekt Red, but the Stalker 2 game. I know that company isn't owned by Xbox, but early previews of that game, I believe one of the guys from Digital Foundries played it. He's talking about that game is technically amazing. It targets 60 and is moving and working great on the Xbox Series X. Someone from IGN, I hate not being able to quote them, or not quote them, but mention their names, but that they previewed Indiana Jones, and I didn't know that Machine Games, the guys making Indiana Jones and the guys responsible for the Wolfenstein reboot, I didn't know those guys were a bunch of ex-Starbreeze guys. And Starbreeze, if you don't know, are the guys who made the Chronicles of Riddick games on the original Xbox. So a game that focuses on hand-to-hand and stealth combat is right up their alley, and apparently they have done a damn good job. It keeps getting better, right? Towerborn, which unfortunately is getting early access on fucking Steam first. I don't understand that, the method to that madness, but whatever. I think Towerborn has the potential. I'm not saying it's going to be, so don't fucking misquote me. But I think Towerborn has the potential to be Microsoft's Helldivers 2. if they can actually make live service content for this beat 'em up that changes dynamically every month or so, they got something very interesting on their hands. And fucking Flight Simulator 2024, apparently you can get out of the plane and just walk around. That's fuck. If they pull that off, that's fucking nuts. Like, between those and Fable and God knows whatever else these dudes got cooking, because like that Perfect Dark looked incredible. I think that that'll be a launch title for the next Xbox. I think that Gears of War will be a launch title as well. And if Microsoft is smart, they will try to get Elder Scrolls as close to that launch as well. I think Xbox is going to be fine. One last significant note about those numbers. If the original Xbox sold 24 million units and Microsoft was still compelled to move forward with making the next console, and then the next one sold 86, and then the next one sold 60, and it was a digression, but they still went ahead and made another one. What makes you think, and I know I said 20, but I believe they're at 30 million now. What makes you think 30 million units sold is going to make them quit? They're not going to fucking quit. Of course they're going to make another console. Of course they're going to make another console. They got too many games that they can launch on this damn thing not to at least try it. 9 million. I believe I threw that number out, Jordan. I threw 9 out at you, but it's 9 million. The Dreamcast sold 9 million units. After the Sega Saturn sold, I think 12 or 13 million. That pushed them out of the business because 9 million ain't shit. 13 million. I think they sold. I feel like I'm misrepresenting that Sega Saturn number. I believe it was 13 million, and the PlayStation 1 sold like 110 million. So like literally they sold less than a tenth, or a little over or under a tenth. Xbox selling which will probably end up being 35 to 40 million or so Xbox Series by the time they're done with this generation is fine. For what they have stacked against them. And I'm not making an excuse for them, but I'm just being honest. We've already explained why this happens. You know what I'm saying? On top of their own mistakes. For them to sell 40 something to 30 something million Xbox Series and close out the generation is absolutely fine. They've done worse and continued on. You know what I'm saying? So, and they've done worse with mega hit selling games. Like, again, when I saw that the original Xbox only sold 24 million units and Halo 1 and 2 and KOTOR 1 and 2 came out on that fucking machine. Dude, stop it. It's the part of the problem is absolutely them, but part of the problem is something that they can't do anything about. Europe and Asia just don't fuck with them. It is what it is. And I'm not saying fuck those regions and ignore them, but like you can't fucking worry about that shit at this point. It's stupid, right? Like as conditioned as Americans are to not buy their own shit, like Western Europeans really just I don't get what their motivation is, but I at least get Asia's. Asia's makes sense. Right? Asia not fucking with American made products absolutely makes sense. Like the only thing American they fuck with is like KFC or some shit. Like, but it's like game consoles and cars, that shits don't fly over there. So I get that. But what Microsoft has to do is worry about selling their quote unquote cars to Americans. Right? And they're way healthier than fucking Ford, GM, where those fucking companies have to be built out at least twice in my lifetime. So I'm not worried about them making consoles. I think they'll still make consoles, but they are going to continue publishing their games. Release, I believe, at some point after the Xbox version. They're going to continue to publish their games on PlayStation. And when the Switch 2 comes out, you'll see them go there too. And they'll make a shit ton of money off of those people on who love sticking to those platforms. The notion being that, if you could have played this 3 months earlier if you had an Xbox, you could have played this 3 months earlier if you had a PC. You could have played this 3 months earlier if you had Game Pass. And that's the three-headed monster they're coming at you with. It makes them undeniable because regardless of whether you play on PC, you stream off Game Pass, xCloud, or you play it on Xbox, you can go ahead and ignore those three options and play the shit on PlayStation, Nintendo. You still got to get those motherfuckers $70. You still got to get those motherfuckers $70 or whatever the game's MSRP is going to be. Like, you're going to have to pay them regardless. Undeniable. That's why they were second place in revenue last quarter, which is something that fucking game fans shouldn't care about, but it's thrown in my face, so fucking I'm reporting on it, right? They're super third place in console sold, but for whatever fucking reason, they are like making a shit ton of money. And it's not whatever reason, it's because this strategy works for them. Nobody on that stage during their interview looked sad or upset or anything. They looked very content with themselves because they're making money. They're making a shit ton of money. And I've seen shit like, people, this guy would never give up because I've seen a picture somebody posted of Peter Monalou. This guy would never. Peter Monalou didn't give up. I mean, not Peter Monalou, but Peter Moore, ex-EA guy. Peter Moore would never give up. Peter Moore didn't give up. Peter Moore was very aggressive. Peter Moore did a lot of things to try and make Xbox the best, and he still only got second place. Peter Moore will tell you, like, Europe and Japan are tough nuts to crack for these motherfuckers, especially Japan. Asia's gonna be an impossible fucking layer for them to penetrate. It just is what it is. I don't know what their deal is. Again, I have assumptions about it. It's on some they not like us type shit. But they're the only ones who think that way. We don't. I mean, God knows if we did, PlayStation wouldn't do shit. But that's a whole nother story altogether. But yeah, man, this is going to be the strangest existence of a console manufacturer you've ever seen, and they've only been put in this unique situation because they can't sell their console outside of the region that they exist in. But I guarantee you, they're going to make so much money off software for the next few years. Like, I didn't check the PlayStation Store, but if the Indiana Jones pre-orders are already up, wow. Like, especially if that game comes out in December and it's really fucking good. Wow, because now that they know that it's coming to PlayStation, and I think this is what King David was alluding to during his reaction to it, is like, why would they go buy an Xbox? And I would only argue with him that those motherfuckers weren't gonna buy Xboxes anyway. They weren't. Like, most gamers ain't like us. They don't buy multiple consoles to gain access to experiences. They buy one console to play like 3 games, and anything else that comes along with it, cool. You know what I'm saying? Most motherfuckers buy consoles to play 2K, Madden, Fortnite, Call of Duty. That's it. You know what I'm saying? And anything else, and at least in America and in Europe, was like they buy consoles to play FIFA or EA Football Club. Forgive me. They buy consoles to play Football Club, Fortnite, Call of Duty, and I don't know. Maybe WWE 2K. I don't know how popular the NBA is in Europe. Well, it actually is pretty popular. I would suspect so. Yeah. But yeah, sports games and shooters are the main reason. Oh, you getting the new 2K, man? I ain't got a new console yet. Get a PlayStation. That's what we have. I guarantee you, that's what's happening, right? Because motherfuckers don't even understand what crossplay is. A lot of them don't like. A lot of people don't even. I guarantee you, it's motherfuckers who don't know what Game Pass is. They don't even know what crossplay is. It's motherfuckers who owned Xboxes and was like, man, I need to play Call of Duty with my homeboys. Let me go ahead and get a PlayStation. Not knowing that if they just fucking filled out their account, they could play with different. I don't think it's a lot of people like that, but I guarantee you, it's people who don't know that shit. It's people who don't know what Game Pass is. It's people who play video games all the time. They don't know what Game Pass is. They don't even know, for obvious reasons, motherfuckers not advertising, but they don't even know that fucking Call of Duty's gonna be in Game Pass for. They don't know. They don't know. They're not aware of this shit. They don't keep up with this shit. So you have to keep that stuff in mind, man. Like, a lot of it's ignorance. A lot of it's stupidity on Microsoft's part for not putting that information out there. And a lot of it is just some kind of cultural, I don't fuck with them. They're not Japanese. Or they're not, their country, the country that makes this stuff isn't us. I don't fuck with it. So, when you stacked against all of that, no, Microsoft was never going to win a console war, bro. They were never going to win a console war. That's never been really a thing, right? They're kind of in the same situation that I believe Commodore and Amiga wanted to be in, and NEC wanted to be in, where it's like, okay, we're only going to sell this thing here, and we'll try to make our money just being a platform that's distributed mainly in one region. Commodore and Amiga, I believe the Amiga survived off that for a while, and so did the Commodore. And that's what Microsoft's going to be. Microsoft, unlike those two companies, existed in a time in the games industry where there were publishers that you could buy that, even though you didn't have reach as far as being in people's living rooms in those regions, you could still sell them games. And I'm pretty sure Commodore and Amiga did that too back in the day, because there were a lot of Commodore and Amiga games that came out on like the NES and PC and things of that nature. But like, Microsoft's doing it on a bigger scale. They own the biggest franchises in the world. So yeah, as if you're an Xbox gamer, you're not that special anymore. I don't think certain games will jump over to the PlayStation. Like, I don't see Gears jumping over there. Then again, it might happen, and it would actually benefit their franchise. Same thing with Killer Instinct. Same thing with Halo. Believe it or not, it will benefit those franchises to make that jump. But I don't think those games will. I think largely what you'll see is a lot of Bethesda and Activision games taking those trips. Obviously, Call of Duty's not going to not come out on PlayStation and Nintendo, but like, I wouldn't be surprised if eventually Starfield is announced. The Doom is day and date. It's just going to be in Game Pass. That's the advantage you have of having an Xbox. I wouldn't be surprised if Elder Scrolls comes out on PlayStation 3 to 6 months later. Like, don't be shocked if any of that shit happens, right? Like, why would you be? They want to maximize their profits. That's what they're going to do. And it is what it is. Like, they can't do what Sony does. Like, Sony sells enough units that they can keep Spider-Man and Wolverine hostage. Blade, I'm pretty sure, is going to get the same treatment Indiana Jones got, where it's like, yeah, it's coming out this holiday for Xbox, but like, spring of whatever year following, it'll be on PlayStation. Like, they have to do that shit. They have no choice. Disney's probably like looking at the numbers like, you motherfuckers only sold 30 million units. These motherfuckers are double that. More than double that. Y'all got to put that game somewhere else, or we snatching the IP. You know what I'm saying? And you still want that IP. You still want to be able to say, well, we can make Marvel games too, so that's what you're going to have to do. So it is what it is, man. Me personally, I'm not going to give up my Xbox or stop being on the Xbox platform or PC just because PlayStation's getting some of the games. I still would rather be able to play them for the extra price of nothing on Game Pass than to fucking pay $70. Because Game Pass is the new Blockbuster, right? Game Pass is Netflix for games. Game Pass is try before you buy, and if you like, then give them money. And you get it in every Xbox game in Game Pass comes out at a discount when you purchase them. Or you can use your points to buy the damn games, because they give you points just for cutting on your machine and playing a game for 15 minutes. They give you money basically to do everything on Xbox. You get an achievement in the fucking Game Pass game, they give you money. Like, it's so easy to rack up rewards points and use those towards subscriptions or games or discounts or gift cards. Why would I let go of that ecosystem? I don't give a shit what Sony gets. I own a PlayStation 2 PlayStation exclusives in particular. And honestly, like, bro, you could theoretically wait for those, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think people who like PlayStation consoles are going to keep buying PlayStation consoles and playing those games they want. So it doesn't matter, right? Like, it doesn't matter the way these guys are telling you it matters. It doesn't work the way people telling you it works. It doesn't work that way. If someone is stuck on a console, if someone's dedicated to buying something, if someone's decided this is what I'm going to do, that's what they're going to do. Nothing's going to change that. This is why, regardless of how bad or good the Maddens, the Call of Duties, the FIFAs, the NBA 2Ks are, and how many talking heads you hear diminishing what those games are delivering that year, those fucking games still sell like gangbusters, because once motherfuckers are set in the mode to do something, they're going to continue doing it. It would take something heinous for them not to. Right? It would literally take something heinous happening for them not to. So I don't think this changes anything. It's not going to sell more Xboxes. It never was. What it's going to do is make Microsoft a shitload of money in the spring. Especially if Indiana Jones comes out and it's actually good. They're going to make money off Indiana Jones. And they're going to make a shit ton of money off Doom the Dark Ages on PlayStation. And if the Switch 2 is out by then and it can run both of those games, they make a shitload of money off those two games too. Off that platform too. Especially with Call of Duty, which I believe they'll launch on the new Switch. So, if you're seeing motherfuckers telling you doom and gloom shit about Xbox Online, ignore it. That brand's fine. You'll still get a box. For now, anyway, you'll still get a box. I don't see them abandoning their platform. They're making money, which is what they have to do as a business to survive, to exist. They have to make revenue, and they are doing a damn good job of it, and they're going to continue to do a damn good job of it. And the industry in general better thank God that they're too ignorant right now to be more aggressive. Right? Because they really could be advertising what they have on a grander scale, and it could get real ugly. Yeah, like there's things they're not like. For me, if they weren't focusing on buying another publisher, which I believe is what they're doing, like, and I don't have insider information. I don't claim to be that kind of person, but I have a feeling they are either buying a publisher or they're buying several smaller studios and a software company in gaming. And that software company, I believe they're targeting is Unity. and you can quote me on this, you can mark me on this, and come back to this. I believe they're targeting Unity. I believe anytime you see a Microsoft guy leave Microsoft very publicly and go to a particular place, they are angling for Microsoft to purchase that. Larry Hibbert, Major Nelson, just started at Unity a few months back. Why do you think that is? He's an Xbox guy for many years. Wouldn't be surprised within another year or so he's working at Microsoft again via Unity. Like, I'm not saying this for sure happening. I don't know. I don't have inside information. But like, I found it funny that Mike Ybarra, very briefly, and God, what's the gentleman's name who worked on Gears for years? They ended up working for Microsoft again within a year or so of them leaving Microsoft, because Microsoft went ahead and bought Activision and Blizzard right afterwards. Like, I just find that shit funny, and I think between Eidos, Crystal Dynamics, who Microsoft is trying out right now because of development on Perfect Dark, and I believe Eidos is helping with Fable. I think that Microsoft is trying those two teams out, and they're going to take, because Deus Ex was being made, and they canceled that and said, "Here, Microsoft, you can," and by them I mean the Embrace Group. They just said, "Here, you can use them for Fable." Why do you think that is? You think it's just this big important team that they had all of these franchises they could have had them working on? Just like, yeah, here, you take them. There's something to that. I don't know for sure, but I think those motherfuckers are on layaway, if I'm being quite honest. I think they're on layaway with the option to buy, or on lease with the option to buy, let's say. And but time will tell if I'm right on that. But don't be surprised if those three purchases happen. I know that FTC is kind of on the ass right now, and they need to get those guys off. I'm pretty sure by the end of the year, Microsoft will probably do something to resolve that. But court cases take a long time to build up. But I'm telling you, once they get those motherfuckers out of their face, because they're doing nothing but wasting time anyway, I believe Eidos, Crystal Dynamics, and Unity will be purchased. Yeah, because once they own Unity, I mean, that's gonna turn into a whole nother thing altogether. Like, and you think they own enough engines, and they have experts in Unreal under their belt already, but owning your own engine, like, Microsoft sees what Epic is able to do as just a publisher by owning an engine and having the game serve as the platform for that engine. And Microsoft wants to make more money. If anything should be clear to anybody at this point, is that they want to make money off this game and shit. And that's going to do it for them. They can own an engine and use a game as a platform for that engine, because they got some of the best developers in the world. They say, "Here, take this Unity engine and make me a game that I can turn into a metaverse." If that team happens to be Activision, like, imagine a Call of Duty that has destructible environments and dynamic weather and stuff like that during a multiplayer match built on a Unity engine. That's free to play. So it's just Call of Duty Online, the old Chinese game, or the one that's on cell phones now, but it's on consoles. It's made in Unity, destructible environments, every map ever, battle royale, 6v6. We don't have to make Call of Duty anymore. We can actually let Raven and all these other companies make other shit, because we make so much money that we could throw money at Disney or DC and license out games and let them do what they used to do. Because I truly believe there's going to come a point where Call of Duty does not come out every year anymore. It's just going to be a big free game that has all of the stuff in it. I think that's coming. I think we're like maybe 4 or 5 releases from that happening. And if they purchase Unity, then you'll know. But that's that's gonna wrap it up for me, guys. I'm gonna take my Nostradamus hat off and take my ass back to bed because I got to get up for work in the morning. Well, in a few hours. But at any rate, man, just I'll be releasing this video probably Thursday evening, maybe Friday. I want you guys who listen to this podcast, if you feel so obliged, to like and subscribe and share this video, man, and comment. I don't care if you disagree with me. That's if I was worried about people's opinions of me, I'd stay in my shell and not be on the internet in the first place. So like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Am I wrong? Am I right? Do you not agree with my analysis of why Microsoft is gonna be okay? Anything, man. Tell me how your dog's doing. I don't give a fuck. Just leave a comment and engage and let me know how you feel. And I'll see you guys in the next video. And remember, just play your games. Fuck the grifters, man. Enjoy your games. It's supposed to be fun. Later, guys. Have a good one.